So how you doing today, Michael?
Outstanding. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Great to see you. I understand you're in Tennessee right now, huh?
Yeah, in Nashville. I'm doing a convention out here called ClickFunnels Live. It's basically teaching you how to do marketing. It's pretty cool.
Oh, cool, cool. Good to promote your business. I know you're always doing that on Facebook. I'm a member of your page, and it's great to see all the work that you're doing right now. And the thing I wanted to talk about today, as you know, is this coronavirus and something that's somewhat dear to my heart. I don't like to be a fear monger, as people will say online, or spread fear unnecessarily. But as this type of work has been something I've been writing about, not necessarily world plagues like this coronavirus, but other types of organisms and biowarfare. And I've done a lot of studying, and I know you, being in the Navy SEALs for all those years, had a tremendous amount of training in this type of work. So why don't you take it from there, and your understanding of what's going on? I call this some type of plague, the virus, but you're saying that it might be something else. So go ahead and take the mic.
Yeah, so a little background, 24 years Navy SEAL, and then SEAL Team 6 experience. At the SEAL Team 6 experience level, I was into being the Tier 1 unit that actually goes out and hunts down terrorists that might have bioweapons and nukes and stuff like that. And then later on, when I was in the CIA, we were chasing same thing, nukes, bioweapons, terrorists, as you can imagine. It was just pretty informative. So I have a real good background on bioweapons. When I first saw this back in late December 2019, this coronavirus, through my intuition and stuff like that, because I get to be really forward thinking. I get remote view, remote influence, had huge intuitive hits, like, attacks were coming a week out, influencing terrorists, all kind of crazy stuff like that. But I was able to, once that virus was reported in China, it gave me one of those feelings that I would get when I was overseas in combat zones when an attack was imminent. So I had that danger, kind of danger close, type thing happen. I was like, ooh, I got to watch that. That's not looking good. And I felt then that it could be something much, much larger. But I kind of like, okay, we'll see what happens. So we're seeing what happens. Last week, it really started to be reported, and I came out when it finally hit the press in a fairly decent way. The World Health Organization was looking at it and saying, yeah, it's not a big deal. And I was like, oh no, I see it as being a huge deal. You just made a huge mistake. And I even commented on that, having been, something they should have, got on top of right away. Today, they're coming out and saying they made a mistake of not calling it, something more serious. But that's all. They should be like locking everything down right now. They should have done it, a while ago. We still, here in the U.S., we still get flights from Wuhan, the epicenter of this coronavirus. And at the same time, they're going to start sending home American consulate workers that are there in Wuhan. And there's still 1,000 people that are in Wuhan, and they're begging, American citizens, that is, they're begging to be taken out. So it's the death toll keeps rising very quickly. I see it as a bioweapon, and that's the reason why it's rising rapidly, and why they locked down over 50 million people, almost 60 million people in China. Imagine, several cities the size of New York, LA, Chicago, being completely locked down. It's just unheard of. So they
Like all of Southern California, really, right there, right?
Sure, absolutely. Just locking it all down. No one can move in and out. They actually seal the roads, and they have there in China, they have tanks and military that are blocking those roads, so you cannot get out. So if you went in there, only your government is going to get you out, because no one else is leaving. And if you decide to go in there, you're not going to come out. So it's just they're taking it seriously, because they see they've seen the magnitude of it. Like I said, I see it as a bioweapon. The reason why I see it as a bioweapon, not just because of my intuition, but also through my background of studying bioweapons. So this particular bioweapon, coronavirus, it exists out. It can exist outside of a body for a fairly long, deep period of time. It can travel up to 200 feet. Once it finds its way into the body, it mutates at a huge rate. And by mutating, I'm saying that, let's say I find it in you, and I make a serum that would cure you. Well, your daughter, your wife, by the time it gets to them, it's a completely different virus. So I'd have to come up with a different cure for them as well. So that's a mutation process that happens in a bioweapon. Another thing that happens is the RNA of this particular bioweapon is going in and latching onto cells and making the cells reproduce itself. So once it gets into the body, that's why people are dying fluid. I think they're way underreporting. Right now they're saying the death toll is 132 in China, and more than almost 6,000 are sick. That's way under. I think that's like 10% of what's actually there, maybe even less, maybe even like 1%. Why else would they be building 2 hospitals that can handle 1,000 and 1,400 people rapidly? They're supposed to be ready to take on new patients by February 2nd. So that's just a few days away. So they see the magnitude of it. They didn't get on top of it soon enough, but because it's a bioweapon, that's why. When I remote viewed the actual area of Wuhan to see where it actually started, I see a middle-aged man, looks like a professional, well-dressed, not anything, I see him in jeans, but you can tell he's well-dressed. He's putting out several devices that shoot this into an aerosol form with a timing device. I see 5 or more of these put out. I also see him being protected by a group. So this is not the Chinese government that's doing this. He's probably one of their biolab people, because Chinese there in Wuhan, it's been discovered and it's been released in the press and so forth that they have a couple bioweapon labs there. So I think this guy is a rogue guy that was probably paid off, or maybe even was inserted to go into their program so that he get their bioweapon and use it against them. So the reason why I think, and of course you can think James Bond type stuff. Of course, I was 24 years in the SEAL teams at the top. I was 11 years working for the CIA at the top. So I know that these James Bond type villains are out there. We can see them in people like Osama bin Laden and so forth. But there are some people that have even more deeper, larger, billionaires, multi-billionaires that are funding some of this stuff. And I when I think about it, because I look at the last James Bond film, and there was a rumor that villain in there was George Soros. So that's kind of the name that pops up in my mind when I think of who's doing this. Of course, that probably never will be proven, but maybe it will. Who knows? So that's the thing that comes to me when I see who's behind this, how that could ever be proved, and why would he do that? Well, I think that Trump, when he made the deal with China, he went against that group. So there's large groups of villains, that are out there, trying to control the world. Sometimes they work together. Sometimes they fight against each other. So China has been with the George Soros group, which is basically a Democratic Party, and they have been able to pull off some serious shenanigans and corruption and so forth. I think we're starting to see some of that corruption unfold with the Bidens and so forth. Hillary Clinton, when she had her group, pay to play. I mean, all these guys are pay to play. So, we can look at Trump and are they really good guys, supporting Trump? I think they are at this point. Who knows if they'll get in power and become villains themselves, but they seem to have, from what I can tell, a little bit better, grasp of what's going on, and they're starting to push back on the negative aspect. So I think they're positive at this point. We'll see what happens. But yeah, there's definitely a cause for alarm in this. I don't like to be, the guy that, get people all fearful, because I think that the fear state is will lessen your ability to handle information. So better to look at information and go, all right, this could be serious. What do I do? How far do I go in planning? How far do I go in protecting myself? I think you need to really look at this very hard and come up with some good answers for you and your family and the people around you. Now, one of the things that
Michael, do you mind if what I wanted to do before we get there, I believe, there's two people, or maybe three different types of people here. There's the people that are taking this very serious, and that's me right now, because I've studied this and I see what's going on. And as you'd mentioned, there's 54 million people that are literally cornered in by the Chinese military with tanks and so forth. When I saw that, I go, this is serious, and then we're finding it here as well. And then you have those people that are like, oh no, you're fear mongering. This is just a conspiracy to get people all riled up and so forth. And, if we study history, I could agree with them sometimes, because I've been on the conspiracy side, right? But conspiracy is real now, right? With the Epstein case. I mean, we're seeing all these conspiracies really play right before us. And, you being in biowarfare with the Navy SEALs, and this has been going back thousands of years with different plagues. And then biowarfare has been used by various militaries over the last few thousand years in different ways. So I think it's important that, we address the kind of the conspiracy theorists out there thinking, that everybody who talks about this, they're immediately, especially, you with your background in the government with the Navy SEALs, immediately people are going to go, wait, Michael's got something to do with this. He knows what's up. He's got some secret in kind of thing. I believe that you're going to have people think that, and, when I've looked at it, me being an outsider looking in, and always from the conspiracy side, because I always tend to think that, and you really had me interested when you started talking about the bioweapon, and I knew your history in the Navy SEALs. But, I think it's important that people understand, as you mentioned, there are some big power players behind the scenes. And, what we see in media is, some powerful people, but there are a hidden hand and there's a hidden agenda being played out. And you've seen this on the world stage by traveling all over the world as a Navy SEAL, and then as a CIA contractor and so forth. So I think it's important that people understand, just because, you might have worked for the Navy and you might have had this position, that you don't have some type of free pass. Like right now, you're actually, you flew out to Tennessee because you got to promote your business. You've got to make some money to survive, right? So, and follow your love, what you're doing right now. So, I mean, this is kind of like a big question here, but so let's start with what changed with the government. Like for you, when I talked to you about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we've talked over the last several years on podcasts. When I first met you, you couldn't talk like you could talk now. And when you would, like you would go dark, or you would regret what you would say. And then now it just seems like you're able to live in truth and like basically say what you want. And I know, of course, there's things you can't say that, that we're in the military side, but for the most part, you're able to talk like this. So let's start with, what do you think changed out there as far as the United States goes, and ex-military guys like you being able to speak the truth?
Yeah, there was a big sea change. We'd even talk about, many years ago, maybe more like 5 years ago. I was saying that I was ready to leave the U.S. because I think it was going to go really dark, really bad. And the thing that changed, that I saw it coming, was Trump. And whether you like him or not, it doesn't matter to me. Whether you think he's nice or not, what he's brought in a positive change. He's brought in taking down a deep state apparatus that is unbelievably negative. So, and this goes into many deep aspects that we could go down some serious rabbit holes on. I mean, we could go down like secret space programs and so forth like that. And there's like a war that's going on, not only here on the surface, but above as well. So this control apparatus has been kind of like pushed back. For me, anytime that I would come out with just a little bit of information, they would come after me. I mean, to the point where they were trying to kill me on several occasions. So I can speak openly about that. Anytime that I would come close to talking about something like this, I would, like you said, I would have to go dark, because they completely would start destroying my life. And they being the deep state. So there's a deep state apparatus that, I mean, before, I would say before Trump, if you said deep state, people would be like, what? But now everybody's like, oh yeah, the deep state. Yeah, there are people, all within the government that feel that their agenda is more important, and they'll usurp the will of the people to, push their agenda, because the will of the people doesn't count. It's more about their agenda that they're pushing. And that's what I'm really talking about. I think this agenda is reaching a very critical point right now with this bioweapon that's been released. I think that if we don't really get on board with it, as far as recognizing how bad it is, that it will be extremely devastating to the world. I'm talking tens, hundreds, even into the billion range as far as deaths. Now, we look back in history, almost every 100 years, there's been some type of virus or plague. And now we're at a 100-year point where the last one was the influenza flu. And that one, there's different, people that will tell you how many people died. I've heard, as few as like 2.5%, all the way up to 25% of the, population was affected. And that could be because, different areas were affected more than others. I would think that, populations that were, close together, like, Wuhan, which is a city of 11 million, or New York or LA, Chicago, would probably be harder hit than, like rural America. So the distance that people have between people, and, people can self-isolate a lot easier in the rural communities than they can within the cities. So I think that once we start to, if we as a world start to recognize that, there is this evil group that is trying to control us, and as they think the world population should be as low as 500 million. So I don't think they have any issues with, killing people. I've seen them in action. I've seen their manipulations, what they do. So, people like the James Bond movies. They think, oh, that's a great fiction. To go watch that movie. That stuff is real. It's actually going on behind the scenes. I've been there, done it, and have been part of it. So when I see this kind of stuff, this coronavirus being released into the population, I can see immediately it's these groups. They're at war with each other, and they have no qualms whatsoever of dropping 2 skyscrapers, and attacking the Pentagon. And it's something that they do. It's not an issue for them. Human life is no big deal to them. I've seen it in war. I've seen one side fight another side, and it's like they'll kill the population, and won't bat an eye on it just to take out one person.
Yeah, and this, has happened here in the United States of America. That's literally how this country was founded, was one side destroying the other, and we see remnants of that right now. So you hear about the deep state, you see the battles going on. I know, of course, there's internal battles and deeper battles, and you're hearing a lot more of these now kind of come to the surface. And, what people think are just conspiracies. I've been talking about and writing about this for many years, and I kind of went off of the conspiracy side because I want to talk about facts, but I always keep coming back to some of this same material, because it turns out that these conspiracies were truths, and the reality is that we live in a much weirder world than we think. And even here in the United States of America, there's different factions vying for control of the very hearts of our souls. It's just, it's amazing. It's interesting to watch, and then to see this virus all of a sudden come up out of nowhere. And, I bought a plague mask picture. I think I showed you a while back, or I had it on a video, but I've had that for about 2 years. And, again, I was talking about the plague. Hey, the plague is here. I just saw different signs, not necessarily a virus, but, I'm always stuck on the mold, the black oil, the black goo, the demonic fungi, which I believe plays a large part in our sicknesses. So, my path, my dark, deep dives down that path have took me to hell and back, and to understand what goes on with these organisms and how they can mutate and they could take over your cells and essentially your central nervous system. And people think this can't happen, but it can happen. And I've read the science, and I've seen the CIA papers and the biowarfare, and it's all out there. It's amazing. If you really search for it, you will find it. And if you take the time, it does take time to understand this research is out there. I'm not saying on the coronavirus, but what they can do, what these scientists can do. And I could just imagine the mad scientists in the labs working on these different viruses. And as you mentioned, this virus, it could live 200 feet outside the body. It could duplicate. It goes from, say from me to my wife, and then to my son or my daughter. And then by then it's already mutated and changed. It's amazing. That seems like a dictator's or an evil genius's wet dream, kind of, to rule the world.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and you see that too. I've had guys on that have talking about the Georgia Guidestones. You had mentioned, the population down to 500 million, and of course that is big talk now online. A lot of people bringing this up, and some type of plan to depopulate the earth, and they've had it on these stones for so long. And then at the same time, although I'm an advocate for humanity, I also see humanity going down what seems like a path to destruction anyway, by our own hand. So it's like this thing going like hand in hand, and then all this fighting in the media and so forth. It's insane. But what do you see happening as far as, you were traveling on the planes, and you didn't see anything happen when you were traveling?
No, just recently there was no issues whatsoever. They're not checking anyone that's traveling. So the unfortunate thing is this virus, which by design will live in the human body for up to 2 weeks before it actually shows signs like fever and so forth. So you see all these people being scanned for fever in the airports. That means nothing. Just recently, there was someone that went to Germany. This was today. They realized this person from China was there and doing a seminar, talk or whatever, working with business people in Germany, and then left. And today there's 3 new cases in Germany from this particular person, and a Chinese business visitor from Shanghai. So that's Shanghai. That's not even Wuhan. So it's already traveled, to other places within China. That's why they're locking down China. So another aspect of this that's going to be unfortunate is an economic meltdown. So China being the second largest economy in the world, basically being shut down. No one, riding trains, no one building things, no one shipping Apple products back to the U.S. So this is eventually going to have a massive impact. The thing about the 2-week long incubation period within the human body. So if there's an all clear, they still have to wait. That means no more new viruses are showing up. From that point on, they have to work for 2 cycles of this thing being in a human body for safety. So that's another month. So we're probably talking about months and months and months of China shutting down more. Almost every country around China has shut the borders, even Hong Kong. So nothing's going to go in, nothing's going to come out of China. The second largest economy in the world. So that's another thing that people need to be aware of, the economic meltdown that's coming as well. Now, today I said on Sunday that the stock market is probably going to take a big dive. On Monday, it did. So right now it bounced back. I call that a dead cat bounce. So there's going to be further meltdown that's going to happen quite rapidly. It might not be tomorrow, but it will come. And I think that the fact that they keep, searching and these suspect cases of the coronavirus throughout the country, throughout other countries, some of them aren't coming out positive, and that could be because it's still in an incubation period within the human body. So somebody can come in with maybe some kind of symptom, and they'll do a check, and it doesn't come back positive. That doesn't mean that it's not already, in thousands and thousands of people. Like there was one that was at the University of Arizona that came back positive. Now, they didn't say anything more about that, but think of all the people at the University of Arizona, thousands of students, and, being infected by this person. Now, not everybody's going to die. Even if there's a huge amount of people, like 25% of people that get it die, that would be huge. Normally there's like maybe 1% or less that die from the common cold and flu and stuff like that. But if it's up where anything above that, let's say 3, 5, 10%, that's a lot of people dying very quickly, very rapidly all over the world. And with the flu that happened last time 100 years ago, the influenza that just so happened around the time frame where all the vets were coming back from World War I after being inoculated. And I think that those guys probably, from that inoculations that they were getting over there, and that was some of the first inoculations they were having. I think they might have brought, it might have mutated something and they brought it back and it spread all over the world. So there were several different periods of when that would deaths would skyrocket, then they'd go back down, and then it would flare up again. So that we might even see that. We might see, little rise in people, having this influenza or, virus, whatever. And then a period where it kind of, seems to go away, and then it rises up again, maybe even more damage being done. So it's something that can happen, especially with a bioweapon. Bioweapons are designed to do that. And you can think that you're knocking it down, but it takes a tremendous amount of, like those people coming, for instance, those people coming back from China, there's 1,000 Americans. What are you going to do with them? Release them back into the population when they're in an area that's exposed to basically a bioweapon? We really need to get to the point where we understand that this is a bioweapon. Who's going to admit that, though? The Chinese will probably never admit it, even if they know that it happened, because they're going to save face. The Asian cultures are like that. They're very, they don't like to have a bad mark, on their background. They call it saving face. And on top of that, there's a very restrictive society, just like Russia was back when, Chernobyl melted down. They didn't let everybody know. It was almost it could have been a worldwide tragedy that wiped out the human population. Fortunately, there was enough people that got involved and pushed, to stop this thing. Kind of like what you and I are trying to do right now. We're trying to let people know that Chernobyl is about to happen again. Let's get on top of it, and we can suppress it to the point where maybe it's not going to kill but just a few people, and that's what happened. So.
Yeah, exactly, Michael. And we're going to get into some ideas and, some Gnosis, some knowledge you're going to share in regards to how to keep safe and to keep yourself strong, to defend possibly against something like this. Again, I don't believe you have fought against the coronavirus, but I know you've been all over the world. You seem to never get sick. Guys like me, when we look at a Navy SEAL, you, Michael Jaco, the things you've done, I look at some of your compadres like David Coggins, and what he's doing, and you guys just seem superhuman, and you guys live it every day. And I know that it's a mental frame of mind that sometimes we on the outside can't get. We of course we get it. We see you guys doing it, but it's not something that is inherently us, and I have this belief, that we kind of go down the path of who we're supposed to be, especially if we follow kind of our hearts and our souls. We kind of end up almost where we should be. depending, unless someone's forcing you to take a certain job or you have to take a certain job. But if you kind of follow your heart, like you as a soldier, since you were 6 years old, we've talked about this many times, you've wanted to be a soldier, and then you wanted to be a SEAL, and you made it happen. And you had this clear vision ever since you were a child that a lot of guys like me can't really understand. We do understand, but we can't relate because that's not us. But we respect it a lot and we look up to it, but we never could seem to be that perfect, meaning I do get sick and things happen and I fail. And I always tell myself I'm a frickin' pussy and this and that, when I know it's what you've taught me for the last, 8 years through, watching you and reading your books and of course other people, that I've got to stay positive. And it's hard because I grew up negative and I grew up with a father that was the opposite for me. And it's hard to really change that kind of program, so what are some ideas that you can give some people now? And then I want to talk about some remote viewing. I was actually going to talk about that, and then I got stuck on that. So let's go to what people could do to keep themselves strong, defend, keep a clear eye, even in face of danger, to have positive thoughts, even when people around you are fearful, which is really hard for me. That's the kind of thing I have a problem with, Michael, is I'm always working on myself and trying to work on, whether it be my anger issues, which I've had since a child. And then it's hard because running my business and living here in Southern California. And then all these things seem to be affecting me where I can't work on my character like I want to because I keep backtracking. So in any event, what can you do to give us some advice for people like us out there, the kind of the laymen, who sometimes aren't as tough as you guys, if you know what I mean?
Well, this is the one part that I love the most that we talk about. We can talk about all the Navy SEAL stuff and all that stuff, but the Gnosis part is like the most important part that anyone can get, that we can talk about, the things that we can talk about here. So the Gnosis is basically knowing that you are incredibly powerful. Your thoughts are amazingly powerful, and you're going to attract to you what you most think about. So that's why all of us Navy SEAL types can do these amazing things, because we have this ability to super focus our consciousness and not let anything come in that's going to stop us from what we want to achieve. And if something comes in, seems like it takes up, we just go around it, go through it, go over it, under it, it doesn't matter. We're going to get what we want. We're going to keep pushing. We're going to make it happen. And, I've had many challenges throughout my life, but I've always been able to focus on that thing that I wanted. And like you talk about 6 years old, I want to be a Navy SEAL, accomplish that. When I was not even a teenager yet, I was reading all the James Bond books. I wanted to do that, did that. So the thing that I wanted to do, even as a little boy, was to find something that I could share with people that would really make their life better. And this intuition thing is that. So finding within yourself that you are all powerful, the first thing. Staying in that positive state of mind. Whatever it is that you want to accomplish, whether it be keeping yourself and your family safe from what we're talking about right now, this coronavirus, you will accomplish that if you stay focused on that. If you feel yourself getting sick, or you feel something coming in, or you're around someone that's getting sick, if you focus on that, it's going to be not good for you. So you have to stay positive. It's I can't stress enough. It's so important.
Yeah. So
you achieve in your life is from your focusing on it, whether it be negative or whether it be positive. Just think back on the things that came into your life, and what do you think most about? If you're professor of a university, do you think that just happened? No, you focused on it and you wanted that, and you stayed focused on it to the point that it brought it into your existence. So staying safe, you're going to attract to you the things that will keep you safe. The nutrition, start looking at your nutrition, the things that I do nutrition-wise that keep me healthy and keep me from never getting sick, besides being very positive and knowing that I can stay positive and go into an environment where everyone else gets sick and stay healthy. The things that I've taken in the past were superfoods. I keep superfoods. I stay, vitamin, mineral, good supplements. I take vitamin D, especially now during the time frame where most of us are indoors. We're not getting that exposure to sunlight. That's why most people get sick during this time frame. Vitamin D deficiency. One of the best things you can do is cod liver oil. And I take cod liver oil during this time frame. Never get sick. A lot of people have a lot of other things. I've taken colloidal silver. Colloidal silver is great. I did that in combat zones where everybody else is getting sick, and I never got sick. It could have been that, could have been my mental, combination of a lot of things. But at the time where I was attracted to colloidal silver. So I think you're going to be attracted to what it is that's going to work for you. Colloidal silver might work for me. It might not work for you. But if you stay positive, if you want to have the things that are going to keep you safe and your family safe, they're going to come to you. You're going to think about it. Someone's going to mention something. It's like, oh, I use this. And then you feel, wow, that sounds like that's something I want to do. That's the intuitive side of you telling you to take that. So you have to find what that is in you. Do the research. And as you're doing the research, you're going to be attracted to things. You're going to be attracted to stay away from certain things. And you're going to be attracted to maybe take yourself and your family to a different location. You know, I have a lot of people that are telling me these things. And I'm like, if you have that and that's something that you're being drawn to, you know, look for the synchronicity. So synchronicity would be something where if you're thinking of going to stay with your parents on their farm during this time frame right now, and you're just thinking about your family, your parents, or whatever, your friends, you know, they call you and say, hey, why don't you come visit me? I don't know why I'm asking you, but, you know, I'd love to have you come visit me. That's a synchronistic event. So that's something you want to listen to. So those types of things that come to us, this is the intuitive world. The intuitive world speaks to us. You cannot be in the intuitive world if you're fearful, if you're negative, because your vibration goes below the level where you can receive this information. That's why it is so important to stay positive. And I feel that my ability to remote view and remote influence has also done a tremendous job in keeping me safe, because I was able to see these things before they happen, long before they happen. I kept my team safe out of you know, danger zones. It's the same thing that you can tap into. Now, remote influencing is basically sending out waves of information that we all have, information being your thoughts. So your thoughts are very powerful. So that's why it's also important to stay positive. So if you send out the thoughts of love, because I would always surround myself and my teams and even the city that I was in with this thought energy of love.
Yeah,
it's so effective. I cannot tell you. Every time I would come into a city that was stricken with terrorist attacks, I would come in and send out these waves of thought, energy, and love, and connect with other people in the environment that wanted the same thing. And no attack would happen. When I left, the attack started happening again. So it can have an effect. It can keep you safe. I've taught a lot of people this.
And Michael, what I would like to do is maybe, you know, it makes me think of, because sometimes when I first heard this, it was like, that seems so new agey, like, you know, at first, right? Mm-hmm. But of course, I've known you for so long, and I've actually been around you, and I've seen this, and then I also have done it myself. So what I wanted the listeners to kind of relate is something kind of a story that I do almost every other day. Is when I go into a house, I own my own business, a service business, and I'll go into someone's house and they'll have dogs. And at first, when I was starting my business, I got chased and almost bit when I was a kid, and I was real scared of dogs for a while, and not like fearful, but I would get scared inside, and they would always react to me, and I always seemed to get that reaction. Excellent. And then I started employing, you know, just thinking, stay calm, you know, telling myself, stay calm, good dog. Oh, you're a good dog. Just saying, not even saying that though, but saying it in my head to really, for the vibration. So when I said that, literally the world changed for me every time I saw it. There's not the dogs that don't like me. They usually lock up. They're the ones that like don't like no one. You know, those are the pit bulls. They'll lock in the garage. They're like, hey, don't go in there. But for the most part, every dog, they're like, oh, he likes good people and he doesn't like bad people, you know, and every single dog likes me. So what I'm trying to relate people's minds to is that dog that you see and that friend. and how your thoughts, if you could change them. And I've seen this happen. So I haven't done this. I believe I've done it to people because I have a tendency to go dark sometimes, Michael. And I want to be honest with you. You know, I have a tendency to go negative because I feel I have this program within me, and it's a long story, but I fight it all the time, the kind of the dark side, and I want the light, but sometimes I go back and forth. Have you seen people do that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I do that as well. Everyone has the light and the dark within them. Yeah, battle. You know, that's part of the the intuitive process. You know, learning how to deal with the darkness, not only within yourself but within others.
Yeah,
So
and
for me, the way I would deal with the darkness of others is like I remember going. You know, we've been hunting Osama bin Laden for so long. I'm going to take him out. You know, so I literally started to send him love. I knew I could kind of feel where he was. Started sending him love. There was a CIA case officer that I was working with. I get the intuition that this one person was going to lead us to Osama bin Laden. She wanted to dump him. I said, "Hey, let's stay with this guy. I think he's going to lead Osama bin Laden." And eventually he did. So eventually he went away because I could see his darkness, and the light made his darkness made it vulnerable, basically. So that's how we were able to take it out. And my old team, SEAL Team 6, Red Squadron, came in and got him. So the synchronicities of that event are astonishing to me even today when I talk about it. But when I look at the way our thoughts work, it's amazing. But your little scenario is perfect because I just had someone recently do my course, and they said there was a dog attacking him, and just he said he thought instantly of what I taught in the course. So he sent that love energy to the dog. And he said this dog was like a vicious dog that was looking like he was going to tear him apart. And the dog stopped and went back. And then he says, "Did I just do that?" And he kind of like doubted himself. And the dog turned around and started to attack him again. And he sent the love energy again to the dog.
Wow.
And the dog, stopped again. So it is something that is quite literally valuable to the point where it can change the environment. And the same thing with a virus. It will happen the same thing with a virus or mold or anything else. So it is it's something it's fantastic.
Sure.
Your work, battling mold is like phenomenal because you're talking about how people are sick, cancers and all kinds of crazy stuff, and you come in and like turn around the mold that's in their house and they get well. So there is definitely something to these negative viruses and molds and stuff like that. It's definitely a negative energy. It's like Osama bin Laden, in the viral world or the mold world. So
here's the Michael. Literally, I got goosebumps all over me, man. I go into I'd say 2 to 3 houses sometimes a day, sometimes one, and I could know So if you do that over a week, 3, 4, I'm going into about 10 to 15 a week, I would say on average. So over a month, I'm going into, about 50 to 60 houses. And then, over the past couple, I've been into 1,000 houses or whatever over the past few years. Mm-hmm. And I could tell you without a doubt now, after all that time, that I could tell that the environment, it's like the microbiome of the environment where I'm going into, the attacks, the parasitic attacks, all depends on the people that are inhabiting that house, meaning each one seems to have its own microbiome print. And I base it on what you're kind of saying now because I'll see it. And I believe sometimes the people cause it, meaning by their negative energy. And of course, the mold that works in tandem. And then sometimes I think like what happened with me, because I met you back in 2011, and I had a house in Carlsbad, and got your book, was real positive and changing myself. And then I actually, after 3 or 4 years, got really sick, and my son got sick, and I went to the dark side and to the negative side. And I felt as if now looking back that this virus, this mold in this house was taking me over and changing my energy and taking my son with it. And so I've seen this happen in other houses, is what I'm saying, long story short, where I believe people's energies are charging the air and these parasites and these organisms. And in turn, over time, if they keep doing it, they attack them.
Yeah, and what's interesting, Mo, you're like the spiritual warrior that I am. You're out there doing the same type of work, and it's interesting that you're starting to know this on a deeper level, because I felt that you were purposefully attacked because you were exposing a lot of stuff in Gnostic Warrior,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they actually came after you with some of this mold and stuff like that. So I'm glad that these negative things that happen in our life, can turn us around, can inform us, and that's kind of like what's going to happen with this virus. I think it's going to be a consciousness enabler, a consciousness push, because I remember going into New York before 9/11, and the people were just like mean and vicious. They were
Mm-hmm.
not nice people in New York during that time frame, and I feel, in a way, they attracted what happened during 9/11, unfortunately. So after 9/11, I remember going back to look at the scene and, see the devastation, and people were so nice. It was like, wow, an event like that can change people. So an event like this coronavirus, can change consciousness for the better, even though it seems like it's unbelievably horrible, and it will be for many people, unfortunately. It can be turned around into something positive. And I think that's going to be the impetus that pushes all of us. The impetus that pushed me into this zone was going into a combat zone, being very angry, having gone through a divorce, losing my kids. I'm back. I was trying to start a business. It didn't work out. I had people that were like, trying to take me down for the stuff I was trying to push. And so I ended up, trying to support myself again in a combat zone, doing contract security work. And I had that, that near-death experience that I talk about in my first book, the Intuitive Warrior, where Archangel Michael came in and basically said, "Oh, you want to stick around because you think you're going to help humanity? All right, well, I'll give you a shot at it." So all this love energy, just went boom into my body. I went back into my body that I'd seen dead, destroyed, and kind of like rolled time back. It's like, okay, we're going to see what you can do with this. So since that time, I have been doing all this work, trying to help inform people on intuition. And it's been a work in progress, but it's been extremely, extremely joyful. So I like it. I love it, really. And everyone that I touch with it, really gets it, seems to be completely transformed. So it is going to be majorly devastating. I see timelines. I see a timeline where this is extremely devastating, where over a billion people are killed. But there's also a possibility, like I've put out this stuff in the past, where I see something coming, and it informs people enough that they change their consciousness. And that's what you look at the Bible, the prophets in the Bible, they would come out and they say that people need to change. It's a consciousness thing. It says you need to change. If you don't change, then you're going to bring this, destruction on yourself. And sometimes they change, and sometimes they blew them off, and then the destruction came, just like their prophecy. So I'm prophesying right now. I prophesied that there was going to be a crash on Monday. It happened. I prophesied that the World Health Organization was making a mistake. They came out today and said, yes, we made a mistake. I said that China was going to get hit like never before, that it was going to be an economic blow to them. We're seeing that today. I see that it's going to affect the entire world. I'm telling you this now. It's going to happen unless people change and get on board with changing. So that's the way this works.
Yeah, and let's finish off. I want to have another podcast with you in the next couple months, time permitting. But let's finish with a little remote viewing. I know that's something that you just completed a course for your Unleashing Intuition. You are probably one of the most well known as far as people that are out there right now, Navy SEALs that are talking about their experience with remote viewing. I haven't seen any other Navy SEALs talk about that. And then, of course, I had the godfather of remote viewing, Stephen A. Schwartz, on my podcast, talking about it, his experiences, the science behind it. And you talk about this consciousness, this laser focus, and it really, piqued my curiosity, this light, and this is kind of what I see and what people might envision out there when they, see that Jedi and you see Luke, fighting against the dark side, against Darth Vader and so forth. And that's kind of what I envisioned when I see you in this Navy SEAL, and you're trying to focus in your consciousness and whatever you might be doing, whether it be a task. And these tasks, these remote viewing, I look as some type of task where you're going inside yourself, but you seem to be traveling distances. And it's like, I'm like, what where are they, like they travel in some type of ship? How can Michael go, 2,000 miles over here? How can they see this? So that my skeptical side says, there's no way he could do this, but the science and the history and the research is there because I've read it and I've had the people on, even though I haven't been able to do it myself. So what is your opinion as far as what are you doing when you do that?
So for me, it's real simple at this point. I played with it for many years. I kept pushing it, working that muscle, working that remote viewing muscle. It was just simply, seeing what's down a path I've never been on before, and then walking that path and seeing the things I saw in my mind. So then it just grew to the point where I was remote viewing, like a highway in Iraq that was one of the most brutal highways. In fact, it's interesting to me that I remote viewed down this highway. It's called Qadisha Highway in Iraq. It's one of the most deadly highways in the world for many years. 6 miles from the green zone, close to Saddam's palace, to the airport. So we would go up and down this road. I remote viewed it many times and could see that, we couldn't go down that road because there was an attack lined up, and, sure enough, big boom. And then we're like, okay, we got all clear, and we drive by and there's like burning vehicles with people in them still. It's like, wow, this is crazy. I'm able to do this. So then I took it to the point where I was actually able to go on the timeline and see down or up the timeline. I could go back and pass with my remote viewing and into the future with my remote viewing. So it's really something that's available. It literally is available to everyone. I think that moms, do it a lot with their children. They get that, oh, wait. And then they're like, something's going on with Johnny, Yeah. And then they see something. They're like, oh, we got to go to so-and-so's house. There's something wrong. And then they go over there and, he's slipped and fallen and, busts his head open or something like that. My mom used to do that with me a lot. And we can all have this connection with someone else. And I saw this a lot when I was in the Navy SEAL teams. We are all working together to accomplish a goal, and we were able to do some amazing things. But we all can do that. We all can go into these remote viewing abilities. So when you have an instance of where, and I teach these in my course, very simple stuff. You can just imagine, have someone put out something for you in a room, and then just imagine what it is and just go see what it is. And you'll have like little hits, like maybe, it's a lot different in this remote viewing world. So you have to understand how to interpret it. Maybe you see a great big lion, in your remote vision. And then you go up and you see there's a pillow with a lion on it. So it can come to you in different ways. So you just have to learn how to interpret it. But it's, like I said, it's really easy. You just have to play with it. It's like a game. At first it was like a game to me. I would actually do it when I drove down the road because I like to go fast in my cars, So I would remote view to see where, the little spots were with the law enforcement was, set up a sting with their radar guns. I would be able to see where that was. So I just got really good at that. I don't do that anymore. It's just a waste of time for me. I just, decide to go whatever the speed limit is, maybe a little bit faster. And then I get just plan my day or my time so I don't have to speed. But it was kind of one of those things that I did. I just kept playing with it, and got better and better at it. There's some people that tell me, I've taught this stuff, meditation and stuff like that for a long time, being in, states of consciousness that allow this information to come through or being able to work with this information. You have to be very relaxed, meditative state. And I taught it when I was taught the first hand-to-hand program, taught guys how to actually go into this state of consciousness while they fought. And it was very effective. So you can do it in any state of consciousness. So I would teach people to do this. And some people would be like, I can't see anything. I was like, well, can you see a pink elephant? And they'd be like, well, yeah. Well, see, you do have an imagination. So go ahead and like, push that imagination. And it's, it's a work in progress for some people. Some people are very, very, very analytical to the point where it's painful to, hear them talk about, how this is impossible. But I'll prove it to them. I do it all the time. And this is a great example. I mean, if you go back into my videos that I put out on YouTube and stuff like that, or Facebook, whatever, you can see where I've been talking about all these things happening in the future, and they happen. So if you follow my work, you know that I'm not a bullshitter. I'm not trying to bullshit people. If I were bullshitting people at this point, I would be so exposed and so destroyed. There was no way I could talk to anyone. So the fact that I'm still talking about this stuff and people are still paying attention, and more people are paying attention, that's a good sign. Because like I said, remote viewing, remote influencing, intuition, all these things, play a huge role in our lives, or can. And a lot of us, I mean, I see people that have these abilities, but completely don't recognize them. I did a seminar one time where I, had people remote view into this box where I had a tractor or whatever it was. And so I brought one person up and said, okay, what do you see? And she says, I don't know what I saw, but, and she even said the word. She said, something like a tractor, but I don't know, And then I was like, well, you just said it. And she's like, what? And I said, you just said what it was. Said, what did I say? And then everybody else is like, oh my God, she even said it, but she still didn't believe it. And even though she said it out loud, she couldn't remember it, or that's how our intuition is a lot of times. I see it in so many people. I'm like, do you know what you just did? Do you know what you just said? And they're like, no. I'm like, it's like,
yeah,
it's amazing. Yeah. So everyone has it within them. You just have to start to believe. And that's one of the things. I believe that I could be a Navy SEAL. I believe that I was going to work for the CIA and be like a James Bond guy. I believe that at some point in my life in the future that I was going to help people connect with something that was just going to transform the world. So if you don't have the belief, if you don't believe that, any of this stuff is possible, then it's not for you, but it is for everybody else. It is possible for you, but if you don't believe it, it's never going to be possible for you. So it is something that's very amazing. Some people just will blow it off. It's which is tragic to me, because it's you're a great example. You've come so far. I mean, when we first talked, I mean, your abilities and so forth are just phenomenal compared to when we first talked like 11 years ago. So unbelievable.
Thank you. Yeah. And, I still sometimes question them. And again, I think that's my 30 something years of negative programming, and again, just battling in and out. But it always, my life changes when I go into the positive realm, every aspect of it. Even when, of course, life is happening, it's not like everything is roses when you're being positive. It just means that when negative things hit you or come at you, you take them in a positive light. You try not to react to them emotionally, so it's hard at times, but every time that I enact the positivity, the love around my family, I literally change everything in my life. And I'll take 5 steps forward and 2 steps back sometimes. So recently, just so you know, I quit drinking about 30 days ago, and I've gone off and on from that, and quit drinking a while back when I first met you, and then got back on the drinking when my son got sick. So I use that to battle the stress, because that's how I was programmed, right? My parents were alcoholics. And in any event, I knew that if I was to keep going and try to work on myself and to live a long life, I would have to quit the drinking, which of course, I'm drinking mold, bro. I mean, I'm literally drinking the same mold I'm removing from houses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's why they call it spirits, so.
Correct. Yeah. And the more you start paying attention to all that stuff, I know you live more in the positivity and the light and in the health, but I've been in the darkness a lot. I've been in the the sickness and doing a lot of the bad things. So I know how it feels. So when I go into the light, into the positivity, I actually feel it. It's an effect that literally you'll start feeling healthier, and you'll notice things in your body, and your emotions and things that were harder will be easier for you. So that goes back in line with what you were saying, is stay healthy. I believe, if you're having problems out there, that you got to stay healthy, you got to stay strong, you got to eat the vitamins, you got to eat the minerals, and you got to stay in that positive vibe. So anyways, I thank you. You probably helped me more than anybody as far as understanding the love vibe and the positivity, even though I fight with it every day. But I still believe that I could conquer it, and I'm going to conquer it. And that's one of the reasons I'm going to stay healthy. I'm going to quit drinking, because I'm drinking essentially a parasite. And I believe that kept impeding my progress forward, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And the way you just said that, I know that you're going to do it. So it's that kind of like positive, I'm going to do this. I'm going to give up drinking. I did that too, several years ago. So it's cool to see, you're getting this, and everyone else can too. It's extremely, valuable, and it's part of the consciousness that we have to be in to rise above all this negativity that goes on around us.
I agree, Michael. And you have a great course to help people out there that maybe they're already there and they just need a little help and they want to learn how to remote view. You'll teach them how to do that, or they're like me and they need to stay positive and they need to learn how to meditate and do stuff like that. Hey, you got a course for that as well, right? So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So you've been working on your life's love after you left the military and the CIA and so forth. And that has been intuition and your books and so forth. So where can people find your great work?
Right now, it's, if you just type in Unleashing Intuition Secrets, it's going to take you to my Teachable website where I have all my courses. And that's pretty much where I'm doing all my work right now.
Great. And you just released a book too, right?
Yeah, it's just a fiction book. It's kind of loosely parallels my life. And I do the people love to find this stuff and learn about this stuff through fiction sometimes. So I decided to do a book on that. So it's like this guy becomes intuitive. There's like a balance there between his masculine and feminine. There's a CIA woman that's in there. There's a woman that's going to be the next Navy SEAL that he's working with. So all these different things, so it's a balance in there, and that's how your intuition gets unlocked. You have that balance. It was amazing to me that so many women, like my book. I thought it was just going to be for men, but half as many women like it. So it taught me a lot, and talking with women that they're intuitive, they understand it has helped me a lot too. So it's very good.
Sure. And your two other books on Amazon, what are those books again?
There's one on the Intuitive Warrior, and then the Awakening of a Warrior, and that's the one where I go into past lifetimes, remote viewed in my past lifetimes, and found some information. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, and that Unleashing Intuition, it's a great course. I highly recommend it. And follow Michael on Facebook. He'll friend you, and he's happy to put out videos all the time with his prophecies. So thank you again for your time, Michael. Good luck in Tennessee. I hope you learn a lot. Until next time we talk.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
All right. You're welcome, bud. Take care.
You too.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Cool. All right, Michael. I will.
Awesome. Good job.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. No, it went well. I wish I would have had the video, but you went well. Everything went well. We jived really good. And I like these I didn't have anything written down, and I think it went well. And we'll do another one in the next couple months, and let's keep in touch.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see what happens with this coronavirus and see where it goes.
Yeah. And if you need help starting your podcast, that was kind of my idea with, the Transmutation podcast.
Yeah.
I know we started together. I think if you do something on your own, I think that would be huge. And that was kind of my idea, but if you start fresh, if you need help with anything, getting it going. I mean, literally, I've been doing this so long, I can get you set up within like a couple days. Okay. Your website, everything. So just let me know. Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mo.
Okay. You're welcome. Take care.
All right. You too. Much love.
Okay. Bye. Yep. God bless.